Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Well, many blessings to all of you today. My name is Jerry Teo, and we're here again with the Healing Generations podcast. And I want to begin by, thanking Creator and all the ancestors and all our relatives, that have come before us and that are around us today. I want to welcome them in and invite them to come guide us, as we embark on this really important discussion of healing generations and how is it that we can heal ourselves, heal the universe, and so that we leave a better world for our children and our grandchildren. And we're very blessed today to have La Maestra Grace Sesma, who is a wisdom keeper. She's a practitioner of many healing ways, but just really an example, one of the leaders in our community that is carrying forward and reigniting, if you will, watering the medicine of our ancestors that really we really need right now. And so we're really honored and blessed that Maestra Grace is willing to share with us today and to spend some time with us. So I just want to welcome you, Grace, Maestra, for being with us and welcome. And would you start out by just sharing a little about you?
Pues muchas gracias, Maestro Jerry. I really appreciate your invitation to be here with you, to be in Plática, and want to acknowledge the ancestors, yours, mine, and all those who are listening to us, to the ancestors of the Kumeyaay peoples on whose land I am living. I thank all of my own ancestors, those known and unknown. I am the daughter of Josefina Alvarez Marquez and my father, Antonio Sesma Coronado. On my father's side, I am the granddaughter of Ramon Sesma and Cruz Valenzuela, and we're mestizo Yaqui on my father's side. On my mom's side, I am the granddaughter of Rosario Marquez, and she is from Baja California, was from Baja California. I was raised with the understanding that we're also Kumeyaay from Ensenada area, although that's it's still to be confirmed from today's perspective, and I want to be very respectful about that. I've had conversations with Kumeyaay elders since I've returned here to this San Diego area about that, and I appreciate their welcome and their blessings to be here and to bring my medicine to this ancestral land. I was born in Kumeyaay territory, Kumeyaay land, and I live on Kumeyaay land. And I'm grateful to the very strong grandmothers of both of my lineages and to all my titas who've passed on, but before they passed on, who I got to see continuing the ceremonies and the rituals that today we know as curanderismo. I'm also a mom and a grandma. I have 5 grandsons who I adore. I think that one of the biggest blessings in just about anyone's life is being a grandfather and a grandmother.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that unites us in conversation with other abuelitos and abuelitas, no matter what our ethnicity is. Yeah. They're such a deep part of our heart. So I send these blessings to all of our descendants as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that introduction, and I just want to note how how different that introduction is from people in Western society. Who are you? And they give you their name and their title and where they work. Yeah, and you just went on 5 minutes about
who you're. No hice todo.
I know that's only a short part of it, but really the essence of that way of life that we are, because of so many people before us and because of so many people around us. And actually, if we wanted to, we could very quickly shift to just talking about our grandkids, and that would fill up the rest of the conversation. because we do it all for them. We do it all for them. and our grandparents did it all for us too.
That's right.
So I appreciate you sharing in the way that you do. I wonder if you can just share a little bit about your journey, because you're an elder, you have so many teaching experience, but it's been a journey. It's been a journey to get there, and not always filled with blessings. I'm sure there's been challenges and cargas, and not only from you, but you've probably seen your parents and your relatives go through some things. So I want to give you a little bit of time to just talk about that journey, about how you got here, where are your relatives from, and that journey, and some memories, and maybe some stories about that journey that is really giving you some teachings to live by.
My journey, like I think probably yours and many friends and relatives and elders, wisdom keepers, has been very serpentine.
Mm.
And I like that because, of course, the serpent is so sacred to so many indigenous nations. It represents higher consciousness to some, and the deep transformational power that our Mother Earth has, and how things are not linear.
Mm.
And to me, that's how my path has been. My path, in looking back at my journey, I see the starting point when I was around 6 years old, and my memory of the very first dream I ever had of ancestors and a woman who I believe was Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe.
Mm.
And of course, it's that sacred divine principle that has so many aspects and faces. And in this dream, at that time, my family had just moved from Mexicali to Calexico. And we, come from a very humble background. In Mexicali, we lived in La Colonia Progar, which is one of the top 5 poorest colonias in Mexicali.
Mm.
So, in my generation, my grandkids are always amazed because I tell them how lucky and blessed we are today, and they are. Because, when I was growing up there, we had our casita that my parents built with their own 2 hands, con, ladrillos de adobe and dirt floors that
Mm.
smelled wonderful when we sprinkled them with the sacred water,
Yeah,
¿verdad?
yeah.
And bathing the tinas and the outhouse, which wasn't always the best, but we were poor, but we were contentos, and we had community all around us. All of my tias from my father's side, who came originally from Sonora, from San Miguel de Orcasito, Sonora, lived with just within a block or two. So I
Mm.
have a childhood that was very rich in family. Todas, I mean, at any time I could just walk out the door and walk over to a one tia or another
Yeah.
and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at anybody's house. And that is such a wonderful feeling. And so after that, we moved to Calexico, and I think I was around 7 years old. And in that dream, this beautiful lady entered our house and they went into our dining room. And I was laying in a little cot asleep with my sister. We had a little rollaway cot that we took out of the closet in the dining room because the casita was so small.
Mm-hmm.
And in this dream, she comes and she extends her hands to me and she said, "Ven conmigo, mijita."
Mm.
And she was just so beautiful. And I had no qualms. I remember being lifted out of the cot and walking out of the house with her. And we got into what must have been a carriage because I could hear cobblestones beneath the wheels of the carriage. And I was sitting next to her, toda chiquita, and looking up at her, mesmerized by this manta that she was wearing, this rebozo, because the rebozo was pinpoints of light
Mm.
that moved like stars in a velvety, dark, blue, black sky. And
Wow.
as she spoke, all these estrellas were moving around her. And I don't remember exactly the conversation, what she told me. I just remember that she said, "Mijita, would you do this for me?
Mm.
Would you do this as you grow older?" And I remember looking at her and nodding, yes, of
Mm.
course. And we continued, I'm sure, another conversation, but I believe that conversation settled into my heart. Her
Yeah.
words went into my heart and went into my conciencia, my consciousness, so that as I walked through my life in later years, there would be certain circumstances that were a catalyst for or a reminder of what she had mentioned to me and my commitment to her. And so to me, that is my first call that I received to walk this path.
Wow.
And through most of my life, it has been the dreams of the abuelas and the abuelos who came to me in dreams and gave me guidance and sometimes coscorrones because, I'm very hard-headed and living my life as I did. It was, in my family, we had a lot of trauma. We had a lot of very tough experiences when we were still living in Calexico when I was probably about 10 or 11. My elder sister was kidnapped by a gang in Tijuana, and she was gone for several months until they discovered her body. So that was traumatic, and my father went through a particularly hard time. She was a daughter by his first marriage, and he died a couple of years later of cancer. And I believe to this day that it was that broken heart and that sense of that I think particularly a father who is raised to be protective has to deal with when they encounter that they're not able to protect their daughter from such a terrible experience. And she was only 19. I think that te come, it eats away at you, and literally that cancer ate away at his bones. So to me, that was all part of him not having the real tools and to take care of himself. So because of all of that, and then a year after he passed, I ended up getting married. I was pregnant. I have two daughters. Turned out to be an abusive relationship. So I divorced. I got married at 16, divorced him at 19.
Wow.
And throughout all that time, I had a lot of dreams about returning to the medicine. And when you're a single mom, and have dropped out of high school, you're looking at a lot of different options and trying to make money and get a job, but also have a profession for long term. And it took me a long time before I was able to succeed enough in El Centro, California, where I was working, to have a well-paying job that allowed me to buy our first home for my daughters and myself, get a car. And so I would always try to negotiate with the grandmas who'd come to talk to me about returning to no, I can't right now, grandma, no puedo. I've got my daughters and they're going to school. We have a lot of healing to do. I have to have money to raise them because for me being, seeing my tia working as a curandera in our neighborhood and seeing other curanderos, I was always struck, even if I wasn't able to articulate it as a child, by the fact that we were very poor. So, and that they didn't charge, or they charged cualquier cosita that was appropriate for our colonia, And in our communities, we don't even talk about that because we know that it's reciprocal. It's not free, it's reciprocal. But in my mind, if I went back to curanderismo, and I didn't know that it was curanderismo at the time, but I knew that if I went back to our healing ways, then more than likely I would not be able to support my children. So I was always trying to do these negotiations with these grandmas who were insisting, and you gotta go back. So one day I said, hey, pues, to try and to satisfy them, I took a Reiki class, and I said, pues que aquí está, here's the healing, right? Okay, I'm gonna do Reiki, and I can still continue doing everything else. And so in this dream, one of my tios from Ensenada, who had passed earlier, he was one of my favorite tios. He was a jefe de bomberos in Ensenada for generations. And he always told me, mijita, when you want to talk to people and you want to get their attention, even if they're your employees or, like him as the chief, says you always call them by their full name, their complete name. And in this dream, he came to me and he said, Griselda Alvarez Sesma. Tú sabes que este no es tu camino. Esto no es tu propósito. And he disappeared from the dream. Wow. And I woke up going like, oh my goodness, they're really serious. This is not it. Then the abuelas came in and they said, no, we want you to learn the ancestral way. the indigenous way. This is your camino. And no les puse atención. So they told me, if you don't do this soon, everything is going to be taken from you.
Wow.
Y pues cabezona que soy, I continued working. I was the administrator of a psychiatric partial hospitalization program. And that is, for someone who doesn't have a degree, that's huge.
Yeah, it is.
I was very proud of that. And about a month after that dream, I received a memo from the corporate office that said they were closing everything down. So I was out of a job.
Wow.
I was out of a job. And within another month or couple of months, I couldn't make my payment, my car payment, my house payment. Todo se me quitó. Exactly the way they told me it would happen in the dream.
Right.
And it was a really very hard time for my children and I. And they were in high school by this time. And in the dream, and I'm not going to go into the more details because estuviéramos aquí todo el día instead of just,
Right.
But they told me, if you return and you make the commitment, you'll always be provided. You won't be rich, but you'll be provided for. And so I said, okay, fine. I lifted myself up and I said, okay, I will do it. I promise I'm going to do it. A la semana, I had a new job.
Wow.
And since then, like a week after that, some friends said, we want you to go with us to Tecate to visit a Yaqui elder that we think that you should meet. And that was really the formal start of my journey. And I say formal because before then, I think like a lot of Mexican families, indigenous families, we learn la caída de mollera, we learn about the empachos and how to treat them, las tecitos. I learned that from watching my mom and watching my tías.
Right.
So así empecé el camino.
Wow. Thank you for that. And what really touches me is that that journey, that dream. And I have a granddaughter right now that has this spirit about her, right? That she knows stuff, and even her hands. She rubs Susana, my compañera. She says, "You want to massage her?" She doesn't hesitate at all. She gets on top of her. She moves her hands. And then she looks like stops for a second, feels, and then she moves them again. And I think about, we recognize that. We recognize it. And fortunately, we talk to her about that blessing that she has. But I think about in so many families that are not open to these things, that are now getting indoctrinated in Western ways. A dream, it's just a dream. Well, don't be thinking about those dreams. Go to school and, get your degree and get a good job and, so I really just want to acknowledge your struggle, because even with that, there's still this internal struggle, because you have to survive. You had to provide
right.
for your daughters. And what a lot of people don't realize is sacrificio, the sacrifice you have to go through. Now everybody wants to be a shaman or a healer or whatever. They're going to go get it online and get your feathers and your drum, and don't realize that the healing medicine doesn't come from that. It comes from a journey, and I appreciate you sharing, the story, even of the pain and the tragedy and even the teaching about your dad, that, when some woundedness comes to you and you're not able to work it out, that it goes inside that way,
right. Yeah.
So, I appreciate, the story of how you got there. I'm sure as you've traveled on these roads, since then, you've seen so many things, and I'm wondering if, when we talk about healing, because now everybody is talking about healing, but I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about your perspective of really what is that? What is healing? People use the word, but what does that really mean for us to heal? And what are we healing from?
That's such a big question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I always, I'm always a little even hesitant to answer because there's so many facets to it.
Yeah.
And I think when we say this is how you heal, it implies that there's an end to it. Like we've reached,
right,
and now we're fine. But, for most of us, we truly are like an onion. And it's constantly peeling away those layers if we're courageous enough to look at what's going on with us. To me, part of the healing is, it's physical up to a point, because some things you can feel better, but you may not necessarily be cured of something. Mm-hmm. But if our mind, our heart, and our spirit are, I guess, in alignment about how we see ourselves on this journey, we can see ourselves as healed because we accept ourselves as both the flaws and the potential that we have to walk this path with love, with integrity, whatever it is that makes our heart feel good.
Yeah.
I'm asked, Maestra, I don't know what my sacred purpose is. ¿Qué es mi propósito? Mm-hmm. And to me, our propósito is love. Mm. And I don't mean that wimpy love or that new agey love, que se arrancan and as soon as they say, things are getting tough. But it's almost like it's an personal love. That when we're doing healing work on someone who has a lot to be healed from, especially if a female working with a male, that it can be misunderstood that as a personal love. Yeah. When I'm working with someone, sometimes, people, they feel this love come through me and from me. But that doesn't mean I want to date them or adopt them. Right. It's that when one is able to sink deeply into our energy, into the Mother Earth, and our hands and our minds, our spirit connect deeply up into the heavens, all of this beautiful energy comes through us to help that person in their healing. Yeah. And there's something within each and every one of us that has the free will to say, yes, I accept that healing, and I'm going to bring it in to these places where it needs to go first. Wow. Yeah. So it's together. It's not me being the healer. It's we're a team. Mm.
You speak of people being willing to be healed, because a lot of times they think, well, I'm going to heal but sometimes if we don't give our body or our mind or our spirit permission, we're holding so much on to the pain or the woundedness that you can get all the medicine and blessings you want, but if you're not creating space for that, and I wonder, especially as a mujer, we know we live in a society that's very paternalistic, misogynistic, very a lot of woundedness that come to women on this road, and I'm sure you've experienced that and continue to experience that. What are the teachings and lessons that are important for women, on this road to love, I guess, first of all, loving themselves, but to that sense of healing themselves? What are the important lessons that you would offer, especially to the women?
Mm-hmm. I think what you said is, loving ourselves with all of what we perceive as our imperfections. Loving ourselves in spite of maybe the early childhood message was that you weren't good enough, or that you might be too good, and not giving away your energy to anyone, whether you see them as a teacher, wisdom keeper, elder, a great teacher on a pedestal, is to conservar their energía, to yes, be in love, but keep the love within and allow it to be a tool of discernment. Who is worthy of your attention? Who is worthy of your energía, of your energy? Who is worthy of you being a student? Oftentimes when we're wounded, and I speak for myself and my journey as well, so I'm not saying other people, but for myself, what I've seen in myself and other mujeres who have gone through a lot of trauma, we're overly eager to give away our power to someone in a position of authority, or a medicine man or a medicine woman, because we feel that by doing that, we're getting some semblance of power ourselves. And that is dangerous. Yeah. Because it's not about giving one's power away to someone we see as an elder, but rather we look at them and we also discern, how are they doing in their healing journey? Are they living with integrity? Are they in alignment with are they someone I aspired to be? And to step back if if you're with a male elder and that elder is putting certain restrictions on how they give you teachings, then you might need to step back. And I'll give you I think it's a funny example. For some people, it may not be funny, but there was a wonderful man who's passed on. He was kind of a mentor to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me a story about how he apprenticed to this really amazing medicine woman. And he took care of all of her needs.
Hmm.
And that means sexual needs, practical needs, all of that, right?
Right.
So he's telling me all this story. And then he says, well, yeah, as apprentices, that's also a way we can exchange medicine. So sometimes a male elder has to have sex with a female apprentice because that's how we can give the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at him and I said, "Oh, that's so interesting." I said, "So how do your male students feel about that?" He was startled. He wasn't expecting me to say that.
Yeah.
And so, and then we both sort of laughed, and then we kept going, because he understood that I was putting my boundaries.
Right.
Those were my boundaries. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so we as women have to watch out for some of those subtle tests that come up along the way, and really be aware of how also our own energy. How do we present ourselves? Are we presenting ourselves maybe a little sexual with somebody else? There's some, people who call themselves spiritual leaders that I see them use their energy field in a sexual way. It's not a physical thing that you could see physically happen. No one's touching anyone physically, but their energy field is such that you can tell that they're looking for someone who is susceptible to that kind of energy, and who is looking for someone to share medicine with them, but they don't understand that if they're doing it in that way, it's not from a place of the heart and it's not from a place of integrity.
Wow. Well, I appreciate, because you're really bringing up a subject that is not often discussed, in terms of, the responsibility of the person that is seen as the healer, seen as the guide, seen as the teacher, seen as the maestro, seen as, the capitan or capitana, whatever. We don't talk about that much in our communities, but it's definitely an issue. And, and I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it so many times where we've seen people that have come to me, and probably you as well, and saying, I'm struggling because I like, this teacher and the teachings, but, he's requiring me, or he's asking me, or, and I think, what you bring up is really important in terms of honoring your integrity, and based on that, the boundaries, So, with that in mind, maybe you can share a little bit about the responsibility of those people that are seen as the teachers, as the healers, as the guide. What is important for all of us to remember, to keep in mind. And I'll refer to the males, because a lot of times males are in charge. And what are the teachings that us males, us men, need to really understand if we're going to honor this work and honor this medicine and honor these teachings?
Yeah, so I see this problem in many areas, from California to our travels up in Canada. Young women have come to me to tell me about how some of the men who are in positions of ceremonial authority have, in both subtle and overt ways, approached them in ways that I think are really inappropriate. And, as they say, with great power comes even greater responsibility. So people, especially male leaders and healers, should not use their spiritual powers to lure women or men to have inappropriate relationships. To me, that's just bad medicine. I feel that anyone who's called to the medicine ways must first look inside, look at our own wounds, where, those days or times in our childhood where maybe we were molested as children, where they were taught to compete for attention, or we were ignored or neglected. Some of our elders that I've met up in Canada were part of the residential school system and were horribly abused. And if they don't work with those unconscious wounds, if they don't work with how we say, our sombra, then they continue uh, that kind of negative, abusive behaviors with their families, with community, with people who come to them for healing. And to me, female elders, we as women, we have to speak out against this behavior. I've seen some instances where young women complain to elders, to women elders. They go to them out of confianza. They come to us out of confianza. And sometimes the female elders don't want to take on such a huge responsibility. And, we have to be willing to do our own work internally also, about empowering ourselves and empowering the young women who come to us seeking help. They turn to us because they trust in us. Yeah. So we need to help them work through their unhealed wounds, the way that what they've experienced in life have perhaps caused them to carry themselves in a way that's perceived as subtly sexual, or maybe even a little overtly sexual when they're in a ceremonial circle or when they come to see spiritual teachers. And that doesn't mean that the teachers are not held accountable. In fact, they have to be held very much accountable and responsible for gently and firmly standing in their medicine and in their integrity, and to not exploit and further cause spiritual and emotional harm to the young women who come to them for help or for teachings. Yeah. We have to teach our young people how to use their own medicine, the love that a lot of them come with so much love. They are so anxious to return to our ancestral ways, to reclaiming their identity. They come with so much heart and so much love that they don't always discern what is good for them. So we have to teach them how to discern who is worthy of them sharing their energia, who is worthy of them sharing their spiritual and emotional and physical expressions of love. Yeah. To me, that's really important. We have to be willing to do the hard work of holding our leaders, our community leaders, our spiritual leaders, our healers, our capitanes, whoever they may be. We have to hold them accountable for abusing their power. Yes. We cannot keep it secret. We have to empower the young people who come to us, and sometimes older people too, who are being exploited. And we have to create a way, using our own medicine ways, so that we can help them heal from this trauma, heal the wounds that they're carrying around them, that baggage that oftentimes is not looked at out of fear or because they don't have someone to help them deal with it in a good way. And if the spiritual leader refuses to do this hard work, then we as community, we need to hold them accountable. We need to bring them in a circle. We need to do what needs to be done so that they can no longer continue to exploit or even prey on young people. Because that also is something that I've seen in the communities where my husband and I visit, whether it's here in the United States or in Canada, that too often the spiritual leaders may get like a slap on the hand, or a teacher gets a slap in the hand, and then nothing else happens. And so we need to be willing to do the work to hold them accountable. But beyond that, we need to give them the tools and bring them into circle. And if that doesn't work, then we need to do it the old way, which would mean that we need to make them leave our ceremonial circles, make them unwelcome in our ceremonial circles.
Well, what you speak of is really some of these generational wounds.
Yeah, it is.
That we have incorporated, that we have integrated, that has been integrated, if you will, into traditional people, indigenous people. And it's part of this generational healing, how we can limpiarnos, cleanse from those ways and reorient ourselves. But I think, again, we have to talk about this. We have to acknowledge this, and we have to know that this integrity of the values and how we treat one another is important. And at the same time, I work with men that are wounded. And I work with men that are on this path or wounded, and mujeres too. But I'll talk about the men. How is it that we can approach them in a good way, but make them accountable at the same time. That's that generational healing that we need, so that if we do it in a better way, and then then our children and our grandchildren will then have more balanced teachings that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know you do a lot of healing related to that imbalance. You know, and it manifests in the body, it manifests in the spirit, it manifests in many ways. I wonder if you can talk about, right now with this pandemic, that we're in, how do you see that, first of all? What is the teaching there? And it's causing us to go inside to, if you will, shelter in place, and there's a lot of challenges there for a lot of people. What do you offer in reference to what we need to do in order to be able to balance all these challenges and teachings that are coming to us right now?
Boy, wiser people than I have written so beautifully about, why we are today with the coronavirus and the infections and having to go within. And, it's like that. To me, it's like that time of Tezcatlipoca, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is really causing us to look at ourselves individually, as a family, as a community, as a global community, what it is that we're doing to Mother Earth. This huge imbalance of how we see her, how we treat her, how we treat all the sacred elements, all of that. I mean, we've seen the almost immediate restoration of waterways, of our animal relatives, of the air. We've seen what it means when we stay home, where we're not clogging up the interstates with our cars, with the fumes. We've seen all that. But I just also wonder, what is it that we're doing individually and as a family to go within? I mean, I know we're sheltering in place, but I just really would wish there was more dialogue within the family circle about what this means to them. What does it mean to your 5-year-old? What does that mean to your teenager or your 20-year-old that maybe they're coming back home from college because the universities are shut down, they're going online, and maybe they're feeling afraid of the infection. Maybe they're afraid of death for themselves, but also for their grandparents or their siblings. How do we deal with Dia de Muertos being here right now in our family?
Right.
We talk about Dia de Muertos and how that's a celebration of our families, but we forget that it's also a teaching about getting to know our family, sharing our family histories. But when we're sharing a picture of a tatarabuelo with our youngest child, we're sharing stories, but that child's also learning about death, right? So what are we learning about the possibility that you could get so sick that your grandma's going to die? What does that mean to you as a family? Are you, as a family unit, living in your very best, highest way? Are you spending good quality time right now that you can be home more? Those of us who have that ability, are you spending that time with your children to set or together hold a vision for your family of what you want your family to experience and the qualities that you want in your family? Do you want more unity? Do you want, when we talk about healing, there's a lot of anger in our families when, that I see in my family and other families. So this would be a great time. Why are you so angry about that? Is it really about that? And how can we bring in, simple rituals into our familia right now to talk about some of the things that are troubling us? Or is this just more separation? I also see a lot of kids, in the familias, everybody's in their own room instead of being at the dining room table, eating together or talking together. One of the things that I like to share with families that come to see me for doing their own healing work, not just when they come to see me. It extends to, that's their homework. They have to work on their stuff when they're home. Is even if it's a candle, you light the candle and you put it in the center of your círculo or on your kitchen table, and you talk and you maybe eat a little bit, but you have a real conversation, a conversation where your children can tell you, as candidly as possible what's going on with them without fear that they're going to be punished or that you're going to take away their games or whatever. But I'm not seeing a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
And that to me is troubling, because here's a wonderful opportunity to gather all of our beloveds, our little chicks together in a place where you see them. To me, when I'm with my children and my grandchildren and we're all together, that's the happiest my heart can be, because I know we're all safe. And if anything should happen, estamos juntos.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are we doing to take advantage of this time of looking within? Are we looking within the hearts of our children? What is it that they fear? What is it that they dream about? How are you encouraging their dreams? Are you talking about their dreams? How are you encouraging them to bring their dreams to fruition once this passes? And even now, I mean, what can you do together? If somebody wants to be an astrophysicist, are you signing them up for, some of these online classes that even though they're little, it sparks something in their, there's las semillitas that are being planted. So to me, this is a time like a winter where where you're looking within and you're going to start planting little seeds of what you want to see in your family, what the dream is for your family. And then you're going to take the steps to water the semillitas so they can blossom.
Yeah.
I would love to see that happening, but so far I'm not seeing a whole lot of that.
Well, hopefully, people that are listening will take that advice and consider that and begin to do some of that. And as you said, it's as simple as lighting a candle and bringing people together and having them share with one another. And I hearken back to what you were saying as a single mom, you're raising two girls, and I know it's difficult for many adults and families that are not used to having their kids around, or you're not used to having their partner around so much, everybody's in the same house and it's different. So I was wondering if you could leave us with some suggestions on how we take care of ourselves. What kind of medicine, what kind of practices, what kind of things can we do right now to heal ourselves and take care of ourselves, especially in this time?
We're so blessed that we have so much strong medicine around us. There's our tecitos, there's our limpias. And, I'm only, if it sounds like I'm hesitating, it's not that I am, but rather that I also want to remind those who are listening, or relatives who are listening, that don't be ashamed of our medicine. Don't be, if family members maybe don't believe in some of our ways of being our limpias, whether the limpias are with burning sage or copalito, whether it's going out, getting some branches of pirul and brushing them with prayers over yourself and your children, or getting an egg. And, the egg, a lot of times people say, oh, the ancient Aztec secret. We all, at least, in my family and in my immediate circle, our tias and my mom, all of us, as soon as something happened que nos daba un poquito de susto, they would get the egg and they would run the egg over our bodies and our piecitos, and they would pray over us que se saliera todo ese susto, whatever we were strong emotions that we were feeling. They would take it out with those prayers and that love and using that egg. And this is a time for us to go back to that kitchen curandera style of healing.
Yeah.
We don't all have to be formal medicine people who are doing sweats and doing all these other things. In my family, my tias and my mom in the kitchen, something happened, even agarraban un huevo, they would come and they would cleanse the little ones down with an egg or even a candle, and they would pray over them, and they would talk a little bit with the kids about what happened. Then they would put a little alcohol over them to calm them down, to cool them down from the heat of the emotion. To me, those are all things that we can use.
Yeah.
in a good way to take care of ourselves. On my website, I have a couple of different instructions for limpias that I always encourage people to take the full moon limpia that people can use para darse un baño. As long as you set your intention for healing yourself and to letting go of whatever is in your body, mind, and spirit, just the willingness to let it go is a big piece of it. It's the willingness. Being willing to be willing, to me, is the first step to healing yourself and to then turning around and helping heal your family. That's how we begin. We begin with ourselves and with our family. So I would say that, to use the baños, to use whatever you have at home that you can easily access. And with that prayer, within that prayer, it doesn't have to be an official Catholic prayer or Christian prayer or native prayer. It's a prayer que te brota del corazón. Love guides that prayer.
Wow.
Love guides that strong intention because you love your family. And it's that love that allows you also to step back from the outcome other than you just being wanting them to be healthy and happy.
Wow, yeah. You say the willingness to be willing, and that's that first step.
Yeah.
Why don't you mention your website just so that people have that and they can go to that and can connect with you? Or
Yes, it's curanderismo.org. curandirsmo.org. Or you can just look for Grace Sesma and it'll pop up. Yeah. But I try to share different instructions, recetas of how people can take care of themselves and take care of their families. Not the general community, but it's for their own immediate use for their families.
Right. Well, I just want to appreciate you and thank you for, and all your ancestors, your tias, your grandmas, anyone that's come in your life that has guided you. But even with all of that, you had to make the decision to go down this road. You had to make the decision to do the work, do your own work, and to be willing to to offer yourself in this good way to the people, to the universe, to the next generations, to your grandchildren. And I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
That we are very blessed to have you in our midst. We're very blessed that you are so willing to share your teachings. We're so blessed that you share truth. And sometimes the medicine is that truth. Sometimes that we don't want to hear, but we need to hear. And I think what you've shared today is really medicine for all of us. But all with that intent of of healing ourselves, but encourage all of us to to heal our families, but also to heal this world that right now is in a time of transition, is in a time of opportunity too. That many truths are coming forward, and with that we need to embrace. So I want to offer blessings and gratitude to you and your husband, and he does amazing work too. Maybe we'll have him on one time too.
Oh, he would love to be on.
Oh yeah, well we'll
And
invite him definitely, yeah.
yeah, and thank you. I always remember when we first met for that baby blessing out here in San
Yes.
Diego with Alicia and Mase.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed. I don't know if I don't think I've ever shared this with you because we really haven't spoken.
Yeah.
But when we met, I was impressed that you opened your spirit through your vision, through your eyes when we shook hands. Not many people have that willingness to share their soul through their eyes when they meet another person. And I was very impressed by your strong medicine and that willingness that you allowed me the privilege of seeing you.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
that. I appreciate that, and I just want to encourage people to and take a moment. I know you guys go from Zoom call to Zoom call, podcast to podcast, but take a few moments right now. There's been a lot that's been shared, a lot of prayers, a lot of medicine, a lot of teachings. Take a few moments with a deep breath in silence, just to take it in, so that you could see what's important for you to hold on to and think about, based on these teachings, what you can do. If it's one thing you can do in your life that will help yourself, help your community, help your family, think about that too. And we encourage you, to continue listening, and offering your suggestions as we move forward. Because the whole intent of what we're sharing here today is to really heal all of us. That sense of Encloca and Awaka heal, the sacred connection of all of us that way. We want to thank you for you spending the time with us, and we offer blessings to all your relations.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.